time that we got started. So welcome everyone. It's 7 o'clock and I'd like to welcome everyone here to this ordinary council meeting on the 13th of December 2022. My name is Karen Redman. I'm the Mayor of the town of Gawler. Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge the land that we meet on tonight is the traditional lands for the Kaurna people, and that we respect their spiritual relationship with their country. We also acknowledge the Kaurna people as the custodians of the Greater Adelaide region, and that their cultural and heritage beliefs are still as important to the living Kaurna people today. So roll call. I haven't heard anything from Ethan. He's on leave of absence. Thank you. Oh yes, it's in my agenda. Just had to look down, didn't I? It's in my agenda. Councillor Deputy Mayor Shanks, can we change that name tag to reflect the Deputy Mayor, please? And Deputy Mayor Shanks will be a bit late, so we'll note his entry when he comes. He has actually advised myself and governance of that. I don't think there's anyone else. So I don't think there's any apologies. Motions to grant leave of absence. Are there any motions to grant leave of absence? Nobody's putting their hand up. Excellent. We do have a leave of absence in Councillor White, and there is no non-attendance. Public open forum. Is there anyone who wishes to speak in the public open forum? I don't see anyone putting their hand up. There are no deputations now. There are a couple of declarations of interest that I'm aware of, so I might go to you first, Councillor Koch, and then to Councillor Solomon.
Yeah, Mayor, I'll be declaring a general conflict for item 10.3, the Gawler Business Development Group quarterly update. Okay,
and we'll deal with that when we get to that item. And Councillor Solomon.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be declaring a conflict of interest for item 10.6, the Gawler Tertiary Hub proposal, and I'll give my reasoning at the time.
Thank you. Thank you very much. If we can just note that they've, oh, thank you, Chris, you're too quick. Absolutely awesome work. So there are no agenda items, there are no petitions. Confirmation of minutes. Councillor Hennessy.
Thank you. I'd like to ask for some corrections before I pass a move that they be moved. There's some problems with who was present at the meeting. I don't think Mick was here, and I don't believe that Wendy was either. And of course I was, so I'd like my non-attendance removed, please. But with that, I'm happy to move that the minutes be accepted.
Yes, so you came in at about 7:06.
Yeah, 7 minutes
you were there
late.
for the majority of the meeting.
Absolutely.
So we can, I think that's quite reasonable. And Councillor Lorna, Councillor Lorna, beg your pardon, you were not there. So I beg your pardon? It was an apology, I think. Yes, I think that was correct. Have I got that right? Yeah. Thank you. Apart from that, so you're happy to move that way. Thank you, Councillor Hennessy. If you just turn it on, I'll do the rest.
Right.
That's it. No, you've just turned it off. Leave it on. That's it. That's it. Just turn it on.
Okay. It's just, yeah, it's okay. It's been picked up. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. So we've got a mover. Do we have a seconder for those minutes? Thank you, Councillor Davies. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Carried unanimously. Thank you. Business arising from those minutes. I think we've corrected those minutes. Thank you, Councillor Hennessy, for those pickups. We will move straight into decision reports, and we have 10.1. Councillor Koch, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I'd like to move the motion and getting down to part 7, just part B of part 7. So only the filtration system.
You wish to speak to
that? Yep. So I wish to move the motion item for item 7, just part B, just the filtration system. I acknowledge the work and effort that's been put into the investigation into a heat pump system to replace the gas boiler. There was a desire to stop using the gas-fired boiler due to the cost of operations and to reduce the council's greenhouse gases. Overall, I support the move away from gas heating as long as the timing is right and there's a sound business case. Unfortunately, I am of the opinion that the timing is not right. The hybrid system would, in best case scenario, be operational in the 24-25 financial year. And just quickly, if I could just go, just so people understand what the timing is, it's essentially that date there.
What's that date? We
That
can't
is
see it.
financial year 24-25.
Okay.
And that red bit, that's when we would be starting to revamp the whole
I see.
the whole pool. So if we actually do the hybrid system, it would probably be in operation for, let's say, 2.5, 3 years at the most. So I just want to put that in context with the timing. That's why I think the timing is probably not correct,
Okay,
not the best.
thank you.
Okay, but so I would expect, yes. Yes, it just blows out. With regard to greenhouse gases, which is important, we originally envisaged that we would transition over to 100% accredited renewables. Unfortunately, this has not happened at the moment. So although the hybrid system would have some reduction in greenhouse gases, not the total amount, which we sort of envisaged right from the start. With the business case, I think it's a bit fluid. The heat pump itself is going to cost about $250,000, the investigation another 20, but we're not sure about the storage tanks and all the association costs. So plus there's an increase of $15,000 in operation. So there's no figure yet. So for me, that cost could just blow out to whatever, we don't even know. So I think if you opt for these investigations, you're supporting extra spending on a system that will not necessarily deliver on all the fronts that we're after. Also, that the pool is now currently operating outside of the SA Public Health general regulations. So I think it's important that we actually get that sorted out and not complicated with a heat pump as well. I think there's some risks around not operating the system correctly and being outside the regulations. So in fair view that we need to sort out the filtration system now without delay, so that will be inside the regulations. And when we do the upgrade of the pool, consider all the options. I think it'd be best to design the pool and the heating system in a holistic and integrated way, not just adding on something. I'm convinced this is the most cost-effective way forward. Thank you.
Do I have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Hennessy, do you wish to speak?
I do. I've covered it at a slightly different angle, but I think I agree with what Councillor Koch has said. When I looked at it in terms of the timing, the plant design, the overall costs, the delivery time and the energy costs, as well as the maintenance. And I think we really just need to concentrate on getting the filtration done and getting that done quickly. I think in terms of the rest, while I understand why it was investigated, I think it's adding noise to the argument. And I think we should be better off aiming with our redevelopment to go to a full electric system at that point. If we try and do a combination at the moment, as Councillor Koch says, we go into a whole load of unknowns in terms of costs. And I think it's a bit of a patch job. I'd rather that we concentrate and start planning now for a full electric system, which will mean that we will meet our greenhouse emissions goals before 2030. So I'd like to just simplify this and just concentrate simply on the filtration.
Discussion, Councillor Davies.
So just a question to start with, probably to Bryce, just in terms of how long it will be in operation. Councillor Koch said that it would be in operation for 2 to 3 years at the most if we installed it. I just want clarification on that.
Through the chair, yes, in terms of the timing based on what is currently within the critical path document there and a long-term financial plan, it would be around that 2 to 3 year window in terms of when we're looking at a full redevelopment. That being said, the plant may be able to be reutilised in that new development, but that's the window we've got at the moment.
So that's correct, I think. You wish to speak? You wish to speak?
Yeah.
Are you speaking for or against?
Against. So look, this is fundamentally, this isn't a final approval motion. This is asking that we be presented with the costed options when it comes back to a future meeting. But I think when it comes down to it, this is something that this is something that I think will have long-term benefits from what I've seen from what we had at the workshop. I think just as equally as anything else, we would find as much use for this system in a redevelopment as we would otherwise, unless we're not planning to heat the pool, which, I mean, doesn't sound like a very good idea. But yeah, I just think I'd like to see, you know, an informed decision based on the options for procurement, which is what this original motion presents. And in terms of filtration systems and that, my understanding is that we're currently operating above the levels of regulation. It's not that we've fallen out of regulation.
Yeah, we have. Yeah. We're not providing adequate filtration, and it's outside of SA Health.
Well, I know that we're doing it in a, this question has been asked at previous thing, and my understanding was that it's not that we're operating below the standard, it's just that, you know, we're operating outside of the system right now, so.
Yeah, the water filtration is too slow for the current filtration system. So we're not getting the standards that SA Health set. Yeah.
All right, well, yeah, I'd just like to see the motion as it was originally, so I'll be voting against this.
Thank you. Any speakers for? Councillor Lorna and then Councillor Hughes. Yes. Thank you.
Yep, I understand what you're saying there, Katie. There's a lot of technology that's going to advance in the period of time before we do a full renovation. We don't know for sure if the current heating unit will definitely be able to be used in the new system. So we could drop a lot of money on this system for it just to be thrown out in 4 or 5 years sort of thing. The filtration system is something that needs to happen. I understand we're operating on a different schedule SA Health wants at the moment, but we really need to make sure that we have this operational. So, yep.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Councillor Hughes, you're next.
Thanks. I think Councillor Lorna actually summarised it really well, because I am also concerned about the amount of money we've been spending on the pool. It's 60 years old. We've got a massive deep end, which is actually hard to heat, and you need that gas boosting to actually heat that properly. But I think that summarises it really well, that we really want to focus on this upgrade, and there is new technologies coming all the time. And by the time we've got our savings in place and ability to go to market, I think, Joe, even the pump area and all sorts may need to be changed, and lots of pipe work and labour and everything else. So I think, we should be concentrating on the new build and the filtration, getting that up to speed would be the way to go. And I think it was good to investigate the heat pump, but we did get reports back that sort of said it really was, I thought, it wasn't quite the way to go, and I think delaying it until we've actually got the new pool and a shallower deep end, and working out what will be the effective heating requirements then, and with new technologies is the way to go. So happy to support this motion.
Any further discussion? If not, Councillor Kosh, you can close the debate. Everything's said. I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. All those against? It is carried. Thank you. That deals with that. Now, we have some special guests here this evening. I'm moving on to, let me just get through. 10.2, Gawler Central Sporting Club Incorporated application for community loan. We have Graham Vardy, President of the Gawler Central Sporting Club. Welcome, Graham. And we have Michael Davis supporting him, but not speaking, Michael, I don't believe. So Graham, you have a presentation. If you'd like to say a few words to the council member group. Thank you. If you'd like to turn that button on. Thank you.
Like that?
Yes.
Beautiful. Well, firstly, thank you for the opportunity to present. Thanks, Karen. Yes, and my name's Graham Vardy, the president for the Gawler Central Sporting Club. So today we're a sporting club and our affiliate club, the Gawler Central Cricket Club, who Michael Davis is the president of, are seeking to install a turf wicket on the Gawler Oval with a view to providing turf cricket from the 2023 and 24 cricket season and going forward. The installation of this turf wicket is a key strategic goal for our club. Currently, the association that we're involved with, which is the Barossa and Light Association, requires that all clubs that want to play in the top division must actually have a turf wicket in place. We currently only have a concrete pitch at the Gawler Oval, which only permits us to play a lower division, which places a competitive disadvantage to attract and retain high quality cricketers from the junior upwards. The scope of the project will be such that we will remove the existing cricket pitch and dispose of those materials. We'll excavate the area, we'll install an irrigation system, and then following that, obviously, will be the installation of the turf pitches. We've engaged the Belair Turf Management Group, who will actually complete all those works. The timeline to actually install the pitch, we've actually been consulted, we've had external consultants and also other clubs that have gone through this process to work out what the best installation process is. So the best installation process is to ensure that the pitch is kept free from foot traffic interruption and any interruption following the installation of the pitch. Also, the warmer the conditions, the better the grass growth. Taking those factors into consideration and to reduce impacts on the Gawler Oval stakeholders, the best time to install this pitch is in January. Overall, our sporting club and cricket club are in a sound financial position. We have a strong committee and governance, which is allow for a detailed review and minimisation of the forecast expenditure. This review with increased focus on fundraising gives our clubs the confidence that the repayment of the loan facility that we're applying for tonight will be paid for. We've also had to take into consideration other stakeholders within our precinct. And one of those is obviously the Gawler Central Football Club, who will be limited to some of their pre-season training while this pitch is obviously bedding down in January. And they've ticked it off. We've also been in discussions with the Gawler Show Society and also the Gawler Racing Club. So as I mentioned earlier, it's a key strategic goal of our cricket club to ensure that we play the highest level cricket. And in order to do that, we need that turf wicket in place. So I hope you accept our application tonight, and I thank you for the time and the opportunity to present.
Thank you very much, Graham, the president of the Gawler Central Sporting Club Incorporated. You had your hand up. Do you want to move that motion?
Yep, I'd like to move this motion. Thank you for the report. I really enjoyed it. I've got some experience in turf pitches. I was involved a little bit with Lindop Cricket Club when we got our turf pitch in. I'm involved with that club out there, and we followed basically the same blueprint that you've outlined there. We got our pitch in over the same time. It meant we had to play a lot of away games, but I'm sure you've got that organised. I was very impressed by your repayment programs that you've drawn down on the loans with the lights and the dog house. You know, the dog box, that's it. Very impressive, and I'm very impressed with the short time frame of repaying the loan. And considering that we would have it as an internal loan, it's a very small amount of money that we'll be actually investing in supporting your club. So I'm very happy to support it.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Oh, gosh, I think I saw Councillor Hughes first. Do you wish to speak at all, Councillor Hughes?
Just to thank the club members for coming tonight and presenting. I think it always helps, and yeah, but the report and everything else was very straightforward, and yeah, no, it works well, and your previous past record in this area is really good too. So I actually think this is a really good scheme which we've done for other clubs, and yeah, highly
I think it's
support
an
it.
excellent scheme, and I think that, thank you for Gawler Central Sporting Club for investing in these community loans, and you really do have a very good track record of paying off those previous loans, so congratulations on that. And hopefully this motion will be supported. So we have a mover and a seconder. Does anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Hennessy.
Yeah, I can mimic what's been said in terms of your presentation, and I'm particularly happy to hear that you considered other stakeholders. So I can see that as a good corporate citizen, you're considering others that will be affected by that. But I'd also like to thank the staff for the way that this information has been presented to us. For me, I think it's very transparent and very open about who else has other community loans, how much is being paid and the like. So in terms of giving a benefit to one club, I can feel very sure that this is there has been a precedent set, and we are being very fair and open about it. So thank you.
If there's no further discussion, Councillor Koch, are you happy for me to put the motion? You want to wrap it up? Thank you.
Yeah,
Yes, you
no,
may.
yeah, I think it's great. It's great. It was I was always amazed that you didn't have turf when everybody else was getting turf, but I'm looking forward to you having a very competitive team when people come. Because with our turf out at Lindott, we've got a lot of new players. They want to come and play on turf. It's good stuff.
Excellent. So the debate is closed. I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Carried unanimously. Well done, Gawler Central Sporting Club. Okay, thank you. You don't have to stay for the rest of the meeting if you'd like to go, Michael and Graham. So next is 10.3, and I'd like to welcome Louise Drummond, Chair. Oh, yeah, I'll just welcome Louise first, and then I'll deal with your conflict. Louise Drummond, Chair of Gawler Business Development Group, who's here to give us a brief. Are you giving a brief presentation or just answering questions, Louise? Okay.
Very brief presentation and happy to take questions.
Okay. So I might, I'll put you on hold just for a minute while Councillor Koch.
Thank you, Mayor.
Deals with this conflict.
Yes, I wish to declare a general conflict because I'm a member of an organisation that has received funding from the board.
Yes.
So I feel that that's appropriate that I leave the meeting.
So you're going to deal with the conflict by
Fine.
leaving the meeting? Thank you. And you filled your form out. Thank you very much for that. We'll allow Councillor Koch to leave the room and not take part in the debate. Thank you. So I'm going to go back to you, Louise. Welcome, and always good to see you here. And
Thank you, Mayor.
yes, and any words that you'd like to share with the elected member group?
Yes, certainly. Now, you all had obviously a very extensive report presented to you, and I know that there's a lot in there to take in. There are a couple of points I'd like to make. One of them being that you'll notice that we have funds in reserve. The reason for that was that we were planning the Gawler Smart Room and had applied for funding through the Building Better Regions Fund. That has been shelved, although we're hoping with the new government in Canberra that there will be something through that. But we had to match that funding dollar for dollar if we received it. So we had to have money in reserve. We are having our planning day in January, which will determine what we do next calendar year. Some of those things are already in place. We will be doing an International Women's Day luncheon again. This year we had 33 businesses and we're already arranging the next one, just finalising the date because we know that there is another International Women's Day event in Gawler and we don't want to clash with that. The business conference was a huge success this year. We had 125 registrations. We are doing the conference again on May the 26th. We're hoping that we'll have sponsorship again, which we had this year, which was fantastic. We were given $23,000 by a sponsor, and we've already got people who are suggesting they'd like to sponsor the event. And this year we've already booked our keynote speaker, and it will be Alan Pease, the internationally known body language expert and author. So I think that that will be a huge draw card. We have our Christmas competition in place at the moment, and we're already getting lots of entrants who go to businesses, spend $20, can go into the draw. And so far we've had 37 towns and suburbs represented by those entrants. So they're just a couple of the things that we've got in place. I'm happy to take any questions. We certainly will be welcoming Councillor Solomon as your representative to the meetings, and I reiterate that anybody is happy to, we're happy to have anybody come and observe the meetings and get to know what we're doing. I think given that we have less than $200,000, we do pretty much with that, and I'd like you to see how we go about that.
I'd like to say congratulations for all the work that you do, both as chair, but also the board, and the support that you give businesses in the town. It's very comprehensive, and yeah, I think you're right, Louise. The documents that we have are quite extensive, but it also gives us a really good understanding of what you're doing. So, any questions for Councillor Lorna?
Thank you, Louise. I've got a question in regards to new members, new businesses to Gawler versus new members. On the first page, there's quite a substantial list of new businesses coming in, but they don't seem to be transferring over into new members.
So I might, thank you. Hang on, there we go.
All right.
There we go.
They are automatically members when they are in commercial premises, because the levy that is placed through the rates makes them a member. The list of 5 members that you have down there as new business members are private businesses who are not in commercial premises and who choose to pay a membership. Many of the businesses in commercial premises, in fact, we have a problem getting them to understand they are in fact members and have a right to everything that we provide, because often they are not the landlord and they don't see the levy on the rates, and so they don't know that they're paying it.
Thank you. Do you have a subsequent question, Councillor Lorna?
Thanks for that, Louise. That clears that up for me quite well. Thank you very much. I noticed in the marketing strategies, particularly around the Facebook, August, there seems to be quite a substantial post reach and post engagements. Is that correct? You probably won't have it.
Any figures in there, I can assure you are absolutely correct. Our executive officer and marketing officer are very, very accurate with that. And I'm just trying to think what it would have been in August that would have caused a greater uptick of it. We find that the content is constantly growing and the engagement is constantly growing, especially since we now put in things such as employment opportunities in Gawler. We're now getting recruitment companies approaching us about that. Any opportunities for commercial leasing we put in there as well. So we have all the separate categories, and it just depends on what's going up as to what the level of engagement is.
Thank you. Thank you, Louise. Any other questions, Councillor Davies and then Councillor Solomon?
I think there's been a bit of confusion in the community about what exactly is happening with the Gawler Cinema. I don't know if you just were able to talk about that a bit.
I wish I knew. I suspect that as the Wallace family have spent $2 million refurbishing the Piccadilly Cinema, they now find that perhaps it's not a good business decision for them to spend the money here. It's a pity because obviously there's a great flow on. Councillor Villalonga would be well aware that the business flows from the cinema to other businesses in the town. So that's a pity. We can't do anything, of course, about the fact that people go to streaming services now. I mean, it's like the way video shops closed. So we don't know what's happening at this point, and I'm sure the Thorpes are very disappointed.
Thank you. And now Councillor Solomon.
Thank you, Mayor. And yeah, thank you for the providing all this information in the presentation. I was just had a sort of technical question about the budget here. And I'm just wondering about what the staffing relationship is with the few staff who are employed there, because it seems to be on a contractual basis and split up into different, like you've got it, for example, membership and member liaison is takes into account a staffing budget, while marketing also takes into account a staffing budget. So staff hire contracted on a basis to do a specific task, or is it why is it shown as that rather than in an entire staffing budget?
This has been an ongoing issue, and I'm sure it'll take a while to go through it with you. But it was thought that we were paying such a lot of money for contractors and thinking that that was administration. In actual fact, the administration is very small, but things like our social media, our marketing, our event management, these are all things that need to be done. And so the contractors do all of that work, and it was better to align amounts to the work that they did in those specific areas so that it could be seen. It's a question that has come up a number of times, and this was the formula that we finally hit on to demonstrate exactly what it is that they do and how much time is taken up in those various activities. Because I know at some stage somebody said something, how could administration cost you so much? The amount of time in putting on an event like our business conference, for instance, is formidable. I mean, it's the fact that we've got LNPs at a vastly reduced amount of money, I might say, is based on the fact that Karen Braham spent a long time talking to his PA and providing such a case that they've dropped several $1,000s and business class airfares, and they're giving us 100 signed books. So it's work that obviously can't be seen at times, but is very, very valuable.
Thank you. Any other Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Karen. I always enjoy reading these reports, as you know, and it's always good to know what new businesses we have coming into the town and the ones that unfortunately might not be surviving in the current climate. I did pick up on page 25 of our agenda in the report. It's noted that the Ray White, Gawler Williston are relocating. I think that's actually a satellite office up at Springwood. So they're going for 2 locations. Yeah, just a fact there. Also with the survey that was done, I was just wondering, is there any scope to be re-looking at another one in a year's time, 2 years' time, et cetera? And were there sort of lessons learned around, because I think there was 36 respondents. Just comments on that.
Thank you.
We regularly survey people in what we're doing. Every event that we put on, we have surveys afterwards to get feedback. I'm sure you appreciate the difficulty of getting people to actually respond to a survey. And that is with us actually contacting them and asking for the feedback. So we certainly can provide a great deal of feedback from everything that we do. And, you know, I'm glad to say that after every event, we do get glowing reports for the content, the presentation, the value to the businesses that attend. But it can be very difficult to get people to actually put their thoughts down and to contribute to a survey. We do try.
Thank you. If there's no further questions, we do have an officer's recommendation. Are you happy to move that way, councillor Hughes?
Yeah, I think everything I was going to say has been said, but yeah, no, it's yeah, good work. Yeah, LMPs is a huge pickup, and yeah, I think you'll again have a full house, and they're very valuable for all our businesses in the town. And yeah, I think each year that you've held the events, they've got bigger and better speakers, and yeah, the feedback I hear is really quite positive from those businesses that do attend, which is really good. So.
And you
Happy to
get
move.
different businesses coming along at each of the events, which is really quite, it reflects that vibrancy as well. Yeah. Councillor Hennessy, you're happy to second? Do you wish to speak at all? No, thank you. Any other discussion? Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, just quickly. Yeah, absolutely. The events I've enjoyed the last few I've been to. It's been great, and it is good to see that those surveys are happening, because that constant improvement is one of those business things that I think yeah, you guys do well. And I guess that was around my question on the survey for the overarching, trying to gather that data and what will be used with that data, because I did note that people that did respond, a high percentage of them didn't realise they were members and stuff like that. So, you know, we do these surveys to be able to find out that information and strive for that improvement. And I was also asking because, yeah, I'd love any tip, because yes, it is absolutely difficult to get that consultation back. And yeah, whatever you learn, please pass on, and we'll try to do the same.
Thank you. If there's no further discussion, councillor Hughes, you happy for me to put the motion? I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Carried unanimously. Thank you. We're moving on to 10.4. Thank you. Thank you, Louise Drummond, for coming along. We have the annual report and regional strategic plan. Now, this recommendation asks for feedback. I think 5th of January is perhaps a bit tight, and I suggest 13th of January, which is another week. And just I don't think there'll be much activity up until the 5th. And I think the 13th might be, just gives us a little bit more time. So I think I saw your hand first, councillor Davis. You wish to move that motion?
Yeah, with the 13th in there.
Yeah.
Look, I don't know, I'm sort of mixed on the approach of the RDA at the moment, and you know, it's valuable to have an RDA, but you know, as you can see later in the agenda, when we apply for grants, they tell us that we're not part of the region. So, you know, it's a matter of, I guess, you know, do we meaningfully fit under the same umbrella as the Barossa Council? And if so, what can we get out of it is something that we need to look into. We need to talk to the new CEO. I'd like to see a meeting, maybe at a committee meeting with the newly appointed CEO, and, you know, bring our concerns and all of that to light. But, you know, for now, I'll move this motion.
Thank you. I know that I've requested a meeting with myself and the Deputy Mayor as a first step to just have an informal discussion, but I think your idea of bringing the CEO to a committee meeting is an excellent one. Do I have a seconder for this? Councillor Hughes, do you wish to speak?
Yeah, just briefly, yeah, agree with councillor Davies. I think Gawler needs to see more benefits from this partnership, and we need not to also maybe be competing with the Barossa. We seem to come up with ideas and then the Barossa gets the funding for it. So we need to
Yes,
work
that's
together
correct.
as a group of councils, and
It's quite
Gawler-
frustrating.
it is very frustrating, and it does seem to happen just about all the time. And I think, yeah, our residents and our ratepayers need to see really clear benefits for Gawler. And I think, as Councillor Davis, there's definitely a place for it, but we need to be very strategic and work a bit smarter, I think, and be on the front foot maybe a bit more.
Discussion, Deputy Mayor.
I just had a question first through you, Mayor, if I could. We've got a board member here tonight in our CEO, Henry Natt. I was just wondering if you were asked the question, would you be able to explain the return on investment for the $44,000 a year we commit to the RDA?
CEO.
Well, my opinion is that it is a sound investment. A lot of the fact of, where we sit within the broader economy doesn't end at the town of Gawler boundary. And a lot of investment in the region is to the benefit of our businesses and our community. For the last 10 years that I've been on the board, it's forever advocating for Gawler, for attention for Gawler, for awareness of Gawler, for reference to Gawler within strategic documents, within operational documents, and to, maintain the rage in terms of focus, and not just, moving that focus from the Barossa, but further to Light Regional Council and Adelaide Plains Council. In terms of this particular document, yes, it was disappointing that it appeared, it was released, and the short time frame. And it's disappointing with the reference to, or lack of reference to, Gawler specific initiatives. But I know that the purpose of the document relative to its audience being federal and state government is seeking to be regional wide, but there's certainly a lot of improvement to be made in terms of specific reference to Gawler. And I'm sure with that feedback that we'll receive, we'll target that again and present that to the board accordingly.
How many CEOs are currently on the board?
Just myself and councils. There were previously CEO representation from the other councils, but for whatever reason they've changed and allocated other senior staff from those councils to the boards on the remaining council CEO.
Yes, absolutely.
Is there an option for council members to be representatives on this board?
I think it's a matter for council who goes on the board of the RDA. I think at the November meeting, it was noted that the CEO was our representative. I think that was part of a motion. So if you wish to change that, we need to deal with that accordingly. Yeah. Okay. Any other discussion? Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, look, the way these documents sit, there are a lot of, in my opinion, motherhood sort of statements. We've got heavy wine focus in the region, which, we don't deny that we do have in the region. We have heavy agricultural reference. I'm not denying we have any of that. And I'm also not denying that there is an economic benefit and a personal benefit for people that live in this town of the region that work in these wineries. That's not the argument. That's not the discussion. My question comes from, these will happen regardless. These wineries will do what they do. They will employ people that live in Gawler, and the RDA aren't, from what I'm seeing, driving that. We've been pretty active in the space of climate emergency, and we developed our plan, and we thought it was very, very important to have actions, to be able to show runs on the board and how we were going to achieve that. I asked the question of what is our investment? What's our return on investment? And those runs on the board, I'm not saying aren't happening, but we need to be able to communicate back to the people that we are taking the rates from to give to the RDA. What this here is talking about with the food scene, for example, I mean, we know that's an Instagram post that I think the one that has the most likes and follows is probably because the person that it was about has a bigger social media presence than this Instagram page alone. So is that what we're investing $40,000 in? I don't think the answer is yes, but we need to figure out what those answers are. And we need to be able to communicate that back. And this plan was my hope and my want that when I went through the attachments, that was going to help me be able to communicate it. This is not sitting that way. It's a lot of overarching stuff. And we are unique in our town, and we do benefit from our region, but we don't have wine, we don't have agriculture. So where's our identity in this? And we need to be able to identify that for $44,000 a year as an equal shareholder.
So I'd encourage everyone to feedback, read the document, read both documents, feedback if anything comes to mind. No idea is too small or irrelevant. If it's coming into your head, it's probably coming into a lot of other people's heads. So please feedback if you can. I certainly will be feeding back, and we've given ourselves a little bit of extra time so that we can provide some meaningful feedback. Councillor Koch.
Yeah, look, I agree. I think we need, I mean, I've read the documents. I think it's a bit, obviously it's light on for Gawler, but we need to be on the front foot to put our case up. You know, I know with the Barossa, they're very, very active in putting their cases up. They're very good at that. We need to be good at putting our cases up. So this is an opportunity to put our case forward with this plan. So we should not be shrinking violets. We should actually be saying this is what we want. So I personally think it's important to be part of the RDA, because I think it's important to have a reasonable representation, because you do get benefits, long-term benefits. But I think the missing link is that we haven't been a strong enough voice, say, as a collective, our collective, and others in that space.
We have 3 board members on the board, and one of our board members is the CEO. So I take your point, and I think it's a collective point. I think there is merit in being part of RDA, particularly around grant applications, and being part of a region, I think has strengths. However, I hear what people are saying, and one of, I think when the Deputy Mayor and I meet with the CEO, we will be bringing the feedback that you provide to the table and talk about our identity and what makes Gawler special and what should be in these documents. And I think that we need all of your assistance so that we can get that right. Okay. Yeah.
I was just part of a note from Andrew Goodsell, and it just triggered that if I could, we do at an operational level work well with the RDA and at strategic level, but I acknowledge that, you know, the lack of reference to Gawler at the strategic level is something that we need to go back to the RDA. But it's only today, for example, that David and myself were at a meeting with the RDA and the Gawler Business Development Group. And those meetings occur on a monthly basis where we talk about collaboration from the RDA and the Gawler Business Development Group. There's a report in the agenda today about the study hub. Now that's been working with the RDA in that respect and the Gawler Business Development Group. There's been collaboration on a number of fronts. And, you know, Andrew just referenced the work that he's doing with Chris Hannaford, our staff member, and the RDA on having conversations with some of the companies in our rural areas in terms of where they currently sit in their projections. We are planning on a report to go to the CCS in March, which we will be, based on previous conversations that we've had, inviting the CEO, now the new CEO, to come in and talk to us. And I expect that both at a strategic and operational level in terms of that interface that we're having with the RDA. So I just thought I'd round up that conversation. Thank you.
Any other discussion? If there's no further discussion, councillor Davies, are you happy for me to put the motion? I'll put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Carried unanimously. Thank you. Now moving on to 10.5, Gawler Civic Centre Cafe update. Elected members, how do you wish to proceed? Councillor Davies.
Yeah, I mean, I'll move the motion. Obviously, the contents of the motion are disappointing. This is our second attempt now at a cafe operating outside the library, and haven't seemed to be able to get it to stick. But all we can do now is look at what our future plans could be, and I think a council workshop will be beneficial. And at some point, it might be useful to, I don't know, find ways to talk to the community who have varying ideas for what they can do with the space. So yeah, I'll move the
Thank
motion.
you. Do I have a seconder? I think I saw your hand first, councillor Solomon.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I'm happy to second the motion. And think it's disappointing that this hasn't worked out, but it's not completely unsurprising. I mean, it was something which was foreseen when this was first talked about. But I think we need to really, I think that's useful. This motion will be useful because it will help us to look at something different in that space, because I think we really need to look at something which adds value other than having a commercial business like this in there, with the sole hope that it's going to succeed and nothing else really attached to that. So while it's disappointing, it's unsurprising, and hopefully we can work to get something which is going to be there for the long term next time.
Thank you. Discussion. Councillor Hennessy.
Yeah, I'm in support of the motion, but I echo the earlier discussion about having the ability to bring in some community members. There's such passion about the Civic Centre that already people are coming forth with ideas that they think could help activate that space. So I'd like to be able to see that we can somehow harness the community input as we think of some new options. So thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Samble.
Yes, I've just wondered if we may ask David, what association has this still got with the Red Centre Enterprises? On the back page, on page 36, I thought this was completely clean. Red Centre Enterprise left the building and so forth.
Yes.
Timeframes for a handback. The only other thing is this business in number 3 for consideration at a future council meeting. I'd like to see that we set a date there. I mean, this could be in November next year.
David, do you want to clarify that statement on page 36, please?
So through the chair, complete apologies there. It's a typo. That should be Metro Canteens, not Red Centre in that information. It's the same outcome from Red Centre. So it was a cut and paste that I didn't change that name in that context. So apologies.
Thank you for that clarification. I think that addresses your point, Councillor Samble. Any other discussion, Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's nothing that can be said that hasn't already been said. But I am looking forward to the next workshop. I know this is feeling like deja vu for some of us in the room, which is disappointing, but yeah, unfortunately, it's part of the role sometimes. I think last time we touched on the cafe, I told a story of going in there at about 12:30, I think it was, with Councillor Davies to look at an exhibit, and we thought, you know, we'll grab something to eat, and we were notified straight away that we don't have any food and we close at 1. You know, these kind of operations, and it was just was a bit of I was taken back that our cafe in the Civic Centre, after looking at an exhibition here, we couldn't grab a coffee and some lunch at 12:30 in the day. So, yeah, look, I'm not surprised, given that experience, and I'm sure I'm not the only one that experienced it in the town. And as soon as you do that once, I mean, yeah, you're not gonna get that clientele. So, yeah, disappointing, but yeah, we owe it to get this one right. I don't think I'm repeating myself from the first go, but yeah, we owe it to the community to get this one right. And I think tapping in and harnessing that community, those ideas, I like Councillor Hennessy and Councillor Davies have heard those great ideas coming through. You know, I hope we haven't annoyed too many people by ignoring them in the first go, but yeah, we'll try to tease them back out again and see if we can get an outcome that we can finally be proud of.
Thank you. If there's no further discussion, Councillor Davies, are you happy for me to put the motion? I'll put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Carried unanimously. Now moving on to 10.6, Gawler Tertiary Hub proposal. Now down in point 5. Oh, I beg your pardon. We'll deal with that first.
Thank you, Mayor. So I would like to declare a general conflict with this item, though I will decide to remain in the chamber, given that the nature of the recommendation, which is it's while I do sit on the board of the University of South Australia, this doesn't indicate any material benefit to the University of South Australia or any benefit direct or indirect to myself as a member of that board. Obviously, it doesn't necessarily prejudice any particular institution here. It simply seeks to expand the resources which are available to students who are currently studying in the town. And given the way that the universities are funded, I don't see any way this could increase participation and increase funding to universities. So I'll remain in the chamber and vote in the interests of.
So how will you deal with the conflict?
So to deal with the conflict, I'll remain in the chamber and vote in the interests of the Gawler community, the broader Gawler community, in line with what they're.
And you'll be participating in the debate and voting?
I'll be participating in the debate and voting. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so that deals with Councillor Solomon's conflict. Thank you very much. I'd just like to highlight that down in point 5, I have written to, as Mayor, I have written to the local member. I have not received any reply. That was quite a few months back. I have asked staff to follow up on regular intervals. So I suspect that, and I would suggest that the Mayor writes again and ask if we can get a reply and some direction and make quite a direct letter in response to the previous letter, which we haven't received a response from. And we haven't received a response from Jason Clare, who I also wrote to. So I think there is an opportunity. It says notes that council staff will continue to work, and I think we could massage point B, Chris. You're the wordsmith. So notes that council staff will continue to work with Barossa campus and Mayor Redmond to write to relevant ministers and local federal member to seek feedback. I think that might be the way to go. Mayor Redmond to write, I think, write letters. I think, yeah, letters, and perhaps get rid of to follow up accordingly, or follow up accordingly with the, so remove that to write letters to relevant ministers and local federal member. Thank you, Chris. To write letters, continue. Notes that council staff will continue to work, so get rid of will continue. That's, yes, thank you. Will continue that staff will continue to work with and member to write letters to relevant. Yes, thank you. I think that clarifies it so that there's a bit of direction there. That was my only suggestion. Thank you, Councillor Hughes.
Yeah, happy to move this motion. Yeah, I think it's really important for all our university students in the town. Do note recently there's some statistics that came out that highlighted that Gawler and country students generally have a really high, low rate of actually completing university courses, and the percentage is, I think it's nearly half. It was quite low compared to the metropolitan area, and Gawler was in that boat with that lower percentage. And I do yeah, share the frustration with students having to catch several buses and trains and all sorts to get to universities. And yeah, with COVID, it's been even harder, and actually having a hub here with better internet connection, and just even having that collegiate approach with other students being in the same area together. I know in my own family with my daughters that really struggled with university and just attending, but also not actually socialising at all really as well. So I think there's multiple benefits, and it'd be really good to trial this and try and build from it. And it is a bit disappointing that we haven't actually had much feedback from federal politicians especially, but it just seems that Gawler, it's convenient for Gawler to be part of Metro, and then it's not, it's in country. It just depends which is the lowest funding sometimes, and we do miss out each time, and it does affect our community. And even those people that are living outside of Gawler that come into Gawler that then travel for university could be using Gawler as a hub as well. So I see that wider benefit to the outside community as well. So yeah, happy to support the motion.
Thank you. Yes, I completely agree with your words, Councillor Hughes. There's huge barriers for kids in this area to access university or even any further education, and we need to do better. And I think this is an opportunity for local government to show the way. I think that I think it's an excellent proposal. I'll ask for a seconder, and I think Councillor Hennessy, you might have some words that the mover might hopefully agree to.
Thank you, Mayor. Likewise, I find this very exciting. I'm particularly excited because it will continue the role of lifelong learning in the Institute building, which goes way back to the beginning. But I would like to make a suggestion on 3A that we not only work with the Gawler Business Development Group, who I know have been very keen on this idea for quite a long time, but that we also ask that the representatives of the Gawler Broadcasting Association be included in that work as well. As I understand it, they create 12 podcasts currently, and they made a submission to council shortly before the building was opened for exactly this type of
They absolutely
facility.
did.
So I think, again, in terms of bringing in the community and their expertise, I'd like to add the words "and the Gawler Broadcasting Association" there.
I'll ask the mover if he's happy. Mover, you.
Yes, so I think that's a fantastic idea. The more we can get the community involved, the better the outcome.
Okay,
So I
so
think it'd be great.
that's going to go in. So, and representatives of the Gawler Broadcasting Association, are you happy with that wording, mover and seconder? You happy? Yep. Okay. Do you wish to continue to speak? No? Okay, thank you. Any discussion? Right, so I'll go in order. Deputy Mayor, Councillor Davies and Councillor Lorna in that order.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I just had a question first, and then I'll speak to it. 3B talks about to seek financial contributions toward the establishment of podcasting. Is that, who are we seeking financial contributions there from? Are we just talking about the Gawler Business Development Group, maybe the Gawler Broadcasting now? Are we able just to get a little bit more clarity about 3B?
David?
Through the chair, yes, the intent was to keep it broad so that we could attract any kind of funding we could, but it was specifically around the Gawler Business Development Group, and we heard earlier the chair of that group stating they had money set aside for the Building Better Regions funding application that incorporated some of these elements. So we're hopeful that the board still has some of that money set aside to be able to contribute. Also, Regional Development Australia, Barossa, Gawler Light, Adelaide Plains have said they may have some funds to consider implementing into the project. If we're adding Gawler Broadcasting, there might be an opportunity there. So it was left loose, so we didn't tie ourselves in, but those are the parties we're talking to.
I think that addresses your question. Do you wish to speak as well? Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that might be the case. So, yeah, I'm happy to support this. Also, Councillor Hennessy has a very good ad there as well. I completely overlooked that. I think we talk about kids studying and young adults education and everything like that. I was actually talking to an older uni student that decided to go back to uni just to elevate his education level, and said straight away, oh, how fantastic would it be if that was around when he was doing his thing. Because juggling the commitments and whatever, it's not just year 12 leavers that do chase uni degrees. So I just wanted to make that point because there is a whole nother community that we can tap into here. I'm really excited about this because if you recall, we were talking about just renting these spaces out as a commercial landlord. And I mean, how much more of a civic outcome is this? And I think this is a brilliant idea, and especially because we're trialling it and we are trying to partner with the Gawler Business Development Group, now Gawler Broadcasting. I guess my points around, which I echo Councillor Hughes and Mayor Redmond's sentiment, it always works against us when it suits with Metro Regional, and we're stuck in the middle. But it goes back to my first point on the previous matter. This is when we need that RDA presence to step in and tap into all the connections they preach throughout their plans, their federal connections, their state connections. We shouldn't be writing letters. We should be able to talk to our board member to then chase the RDA. Now, I know there's work going on in this space, but a letter from Mayor Redmond that hasn't been answered, the RDA should be chasing that on our behalf. So that's sort of my points on that. But this hub proposal, I'm really excited to see how this plans out for 12 months, because I think it's gonna hit the mark for a civic outcome.
Thank you, Councillor Davies.
So I'm going to declare a conflict of interest based on the amendment. I'm a board member of the Gawler Broadcasting Association.
How do you wish to manage your conflict?
Given that it's not.
Is it a general or material?
It's general. It's not funding the Gawler Broadcasting Association anything. It's just asking for feedback from them. So I'm happy to stay in the room, but I just wanted to note that as a conflict.
And how will you manage your conflict? You'll stay in the room?
Stay in the room, participate and vote in the best interest of the Gawler community. And can I speak to it now?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, this is something that I think is quite valuable. My experience as a uni student in Gawler has been that there are things that I just don't go to that I would have gone to if I lived closer. Sometimes there's a lecture that lasts for an hour and it takes an hour to get there and it takes an hour to get back, and you do the maths and you say, all right, well, I'll just, I'll get around, I'll watch it online later or something. But then it's sort of, when you're not in a work environment, you have to set your own schedules. It's useful to have sometimes something like a specialized room where you can say, this is when I'm doing uni work, rather than just, I'm at home and I could be doing uni work and I could be doing this and I could be doing that. And to have somewhere local where, yeah, you can have other students there and everything else, I think is something that, because those little things can add up in terms of what you, not just in terms of classes, but also in terms of social events, what you go to and what you don't go to. This is far enough out, and the general region is also, Gawler is a hub for the surrounding rural areas, you know, and so I think it really makes sense to have a regional hub here, and I hope that we can convince some grant funders of that in the near future.
Thank you. Councillor Lorna, I think you had your hand up.
No worries. First off, I support the Out of Home Study Initiative and provide an area that and the capabilities to assist those that require it. I am a little bit concerned about the 24/7 access and how that will be managed in regards to protocols happening for assault, thefts, vandalisms. I would say someone loses their access cards, what's stopping people from getting in? Is there a lone person pendants available? Have we got any more clarification how this is going to be managed?
Thank you for that question. Mr. Barrett, if you can answer that, I'm sure you've got an answer to that question.
So through the chair, in terms of the security system, lost cards are very easy for us to disable instantaneously, and therefore people can't access the building anymore. So we can deal with that one. We already have 24/7 access for our Business Innovation Hub members. So it'll be the same protocols we use for them. We have duress systems available. We have the booking system, so we know who's coming and who's leaving at what times based on that booking system, and the swipe cards enter their details into our security system as well, so we know who's come and gone in that process as well. Obviously, there are some two-way acknowledgements of risk associated with that, but that's all part of the agreement with setting up for 24/7 access.
Does that address your question? Yeah, absolutely.
The second part is about the podcast video production studio. Have we really done a canvass on the students and the community in general as to how much use has this got to get? I know I'm getting old, but there's a lot of people going to be actually coming into using this podcast. Second part to it, if it is something that the council decides to go to, I do not see the point in doing the light version, because people aren't going to have the access or the computers to do that. If we're going to do it, we need to do the full hog. But I'm still not sold on actually spending 30 odd grand on this podcast
Okay.
studio.
I might ask you to respond, David, if you can. Thank you.
Through the chair, anecdotally, we do have demand from students for this. We know that some courses require live production elements as part of their assessments, so that it definitely tick those boxes in the media courses, etc. But the added benefit of this podcasting facility is the business use that may come from it as well, which is why we want to partner with the Gawler Business Development Group. And they did a lot of market research that led to their funding application that sought this infrastructure. So whilst we are going to support students in the space, that room would also be available for other use and business use as well, because it is a community facility that all people can use. So we know there's demand in that space, which is why we want contributions from them, and I 100% support the full version, not the light version, for the reasons you've outlined.
And I think with the Gawler Broadcasting Association, they do lots of podcasts out in the community. They'll be able to bring people in. So I think that will be a highly sought after space. And again, it's a 12-month trial. So we'll get some outcomes. We'll be able to review it, Councillor Lorna, so that and we can assess whether we're happy with those outcomes. But I think from a Gawler Broadcasting Association, Gawler Business Development Group and student usage, I really think there's going to be quite a strong demand for that space. So I guess we'll see where it goes. But I'll leave that up to you. Yeah. Do you wish to speak anymore? No, okay, thank you. Councillor Solomon.
Thank you, Mayor. Just quickly, I think this is, it's really good to have a diverse range of things which are happening here in the Civic Centre. Obviously, we know that having a diverse range of activities and businesses in a place increases the likelihood of people visiting that space and revisiting that space and utilising it. So having that range of commercial, recreational and educational facilities here is probably a good step in making sure that this space is properly utilised as well.
Thank you. If there's no further discussion, Deputy Mayor. Seek leave to, can you show a show of hands so that I can see? Yes, you have leave, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. The only point I was going to make was in the report, it talks about a potential lockbox sort of system or a key card. There's these great things called smart locks that go on the door that have a custom code. So you would be able to be a member of the facility and you'd be given a code. I understand that the key card does identify, so we know who's coming and going. The code does the same thing. So in the security item that Councillor Lorna did flag in the loss of a card, that doesn't exist. If someone gives out their code, you can cancel it straight away. But it is always flagged back to that code holder and the identification of that. You can also set these smart locks to only allow presence for an 8-hour window in a day, or however you want to do it. And their cost is similar to some of the other infrastructure that we're talking about. So that was just one of the other notes that I wanted to point out what we're using in a commercial sense as well.
Thank you very much. Councillor Hughes, can you wrap up the debate? Thank you. Are you happy for me to put the motion? Okay, I'll put that motion. The debate is closed. All those in favour, please raise their hands. Carried unanimously. Thank you. So now we have Gawler River Floodplain Management Authority Flood Mitigation Cost Sharing Model. Councillor Koch.
Yeah, I wish to move this.
Yes.
I'm a member of the board and we've spent a fair bit of time looking at this. Obviously we had the consultant coming to look at this model, and I feel this is a good balance, because our contributions now won't change. This is just for projects over $1 million when it comes to that little balance. And you need that cost sharing formula when you go to the state and federal governments, because they actually want to know what contribution that's going into the bigger project, especially with the Northern Floodway. That's going to be a big project if it goes ahead, and we need to have a model that we can take to those two tiers of government to say that we're in the game as well. So I'd implore people to support this motion.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Davis, do you wish to speak?
Actually, I'm good.
You're happy to move as second but not speak? Thank you. Any other discussion? There's no further discussion. Councillor Koch, you happy for me to put the motion? I'll put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Carried unanimously. Thank you. 10.8. Now I know that there's a couple of elected members that are interested in this. If anyone's interested, please raise their hand. We've got Councillor Hennessy, we've got Councillor Lorna, and we can have more than one proxy. Yeah, so we've got Councillor Hennessy as the main person. Is that, I'm just trying to work it out. You put your hand up first. Is that okay?
Yeah. I write stuff, so might as well read it. Hey, this is needed now in a community and is close to my heart. I've witnessed the lack of resources, particularly around mental health, and have dealt with the fallout too many times. As an inclusive community, we need to be supporting and doing all that we can to assist in the well-being of our community. I've no issue contributing the 26.5 grand for a plan coordinator project managed development, as the money is well spent. I am interested in joining the advisory group. However, I'm more interested in the best experienced person suited to the position. So I would be happy to go proxy.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, councillor Lorna. So we'll put councillor Lorna as the proxy. I note that councillor Hughes is on the Health Advisory Council, so it may be worth discussing with councillor Hughes what the hospital and the local health network are doing, so that there's synergies and not duplication. I think there's always opportunity for duplication and more efficiency, so that might be a good idea. Councillor Hughes, are you happy for to be a second proxy, or what would you like to do? You tell me. Yep, you need. There you
Okay,
go.
thank you. Yeah, very happy to be second proxy after councillor Lorna if he's not available. The Gawler Area Health Advisory Council is actually working on very similar priorities as what came out from the regional health plan. So we have got a very busy 12 months working in a lot of these areas. And so, yes, there is a lot of synergies, but I think it'd be great to have two other two councillors involved in this committee with council staff and the regional approach, because there is some really big issues, as councillor Lorna said. But we have made a difference. Like, we did speed up the A&E at the Gawler Health Service. That building works started last week, which is really great news. We are working on a master plan for the health needs of our community, which we've got 6 months to deliver on, which is a massive task for the Gawler Area Health Advisory Council, working with the partners, our GPs and everyone else in the area, including council. So yeah, there is a lot of tie-in, but yeah, we're looking at some major funding, hopefully in 6 months' time, once our master plans are finished. So there is a lot going on in health in Gawler, and it is quite exciting, and there's some really good opportunities in a lot of areas. So Mount Barker did a master planning process, and they've got this humongous hospital redevelopment now going ahead after the master planning. And we have been told that once we've got our master plan process completed, we've also got similar opportunities. So it is looking really exciting. But yeah, I'd encourage all councillors to be actively involved, because I think, yeah, the next 12, 18 months or more, health, there is some massive needs in our community. Mental health, just access to health services, just transport issues, getting to GPs, and actually the lack of GPs, the waiting times to actually see a GP is blowing out. Just the services our community have to travel to the other side of Noarlunga, or don't quite down south to actually access services, when they could be trying to actually get them through Gawler or other means. So yeah, it's quite good. Thank you.
I'm looking for a mover and a seconder. We now have the councillors with their names in the recommendation. So if I can get a mover, are you happy to move, councillor Hennessy? Are you happy to second? If you'd like to speak, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, and thank you, councillor Lorna and councillor Hughes. I guess from my point of view, I come off 7 years board member with GP Inc., which wound up in September. So I'm very familiar from a GP point of view, as well as the Barossa Hills Fleurieu network. I'm an active contributor in trying to get that health plan up. And the third point for me is Town of Gawler's project, of course, is community participation, which also interests me greatly. So I echo the words. I think it's a really important point at the moment that we do act in a coordinated manner. We work with a HAC and we work with GPs. But more importantly, we also work with the other councils to get this focus on this regional public health plan. So I'm very happy to move the motion.
Thank you, councillor Kosh. You wish to speak as a seconder?
Yeah, just quickly, I'm very excited that we've got two councillors that are going to put their hands up, both passionate, both experienced, and both very competent in this area. And just one thing to say is that proxies can potentially just attend the meetings anyway. And in some cases, you're allowed to speak. You can sit and speak in some cases, but not vote. But you can participate in the meeting. So it's great when we've got two. I've been to board meetings. We've had two reps, but only one vote. But it's always good to have that input. So that's great. Thank you.
Wonderful stuff. Any other discussion? If not, councillor Hennessy, are you happy for me to put the motion? Thank you. I'll put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Carried unanimously. So moving on to 10.10, we have 10.9. Oh, yes. How could I forget that one? Councillor Kosh. Have it marked. Oh, there it is. Yes, councillor Kosh.
Yeah, I'd like to move this motion, but with some changes.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
I'll read it out. The council appoints the mayor, councillor Kosh, councillor Hughes and councillor Solomon as the selection panel for the purposes of recommending to a future council meeting preferred candidates, et cetera. And then the last bit is that council staff to provide coordination and support to the selection committee. So my idea behind this is to have a focus on elected members in the selection process. In some respects, councillors have been pushed aside when it comes to the assessment panel, and this is an opportunity for councillors and the community, councillors representing the community, to be involved in that selection process. So people in the community can see that it's a transparent, open process. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder for this, councillor Davies? Do you wish to speak at all? Oh, sorry,
Yeah,
Cody.
look, I think, yeah, it will be valuable for the proxies to be on there. I was part of a selection panel at one point and it was very enlightening as to the variety of expertise provided on the panel. So definitely worth proxies coming along too.
Yeah. So that you need to, so I think Chris didn't quite catch up. So if you'd just like to repeat that, just for the benefit of the minute taker, staff provide, or relevant staff provide, what did you say? Coordination? Okay, so would it be relevant staff? Okay. And support to the collection, the selection committee. So relevant staff. Okay, so now we've got that correct. Okay, so you're happy with that, seconder? Thank you. Discussion, Deputy Mayor.
Just a question through you, Mayor. So just to clarify, councillor Kosh, we're not going to have any staff on the panel. They're only there to assist the elected members. Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we've got the deputy members there as well. And yeah. Okay, thank you. So we've got a mover and a seconder. Any other discussion, Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, I've been on a selection panel as well, and like Cody, councillor Davies found it very beneficial to learn the credentials of our CAP. And I completely agree with councillor Kosh, the importance of the community representatives being a part of the process. The reason I can't support this one, though, is the panel that I was on, I found it quite valuable at the time. We had the executive manager of planning, I believe it was called then, in Ryan Viney, and his input was really great in that space. Now, I understand that the support there is probably capturing that. But I do sort of see the merit of the staff also being able to not just be an advisor, but also have that vote from a professional level. So I saw your addition or your motion as very valuable if we also still had those staff members included, because that collaboration is the way that I think it was great with the selection process that I was involved in, to have that collaboration. And I see the voting only sort of honing in on that. So I get where you're coming from, and I don't disagree with nearly 80% of what you said. I just don't like the idea of taking the voting power away from the professionals in this space as well. So unfortunately, I can't support this particular version, but I would be happy to support the staff members going back in.
Councillor Hennessy.
I am going to support the changes. I think given the sensitivity in the community about the whole council assessment panel, I think we need to strengthen the fact that it's elected members that are making this decision on behalf of the community. The staff are there to assist and advise, and I'm sure they will be, but I think the final decision has to be with representatives of the community.
Any other discussion? Councillor Solomon.
Just a quick question of clarification. So we have in this document some background which is mentioned. I'm just wondering if under background point 4, which mentions the appointment of Mayor Redmond, Councillors Davies, Koch, Shanks and Hughes, is that in reference to the previous panel, and was Ryan
Yes.
Viney a member of the selection panel?
No,
No,
he was
he
there
was
to
not.
support.
So
He was there to support. He was actually.
Have staff previously been members of that panel in the last?
The selection panel to recommend to council the appointment of new council assessment panel include Mayor Redmond and councillors Davies, Koch, Shanks and Hughes. That was the selection panel for the independent members. Yeah, they were there to advise, and they provided very good advice, as I recall.
No worries. May I speak to the motion?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, councillor Solomon.
So yes, I'll speak in support of the motion. So I think to keep consistency with what has previously been done in regard to selection of independent members for the CAP, and also to make sure that we are best reflecting the views of the community in that process. It's important to note that people who are being assessed by that panel are people who have been vetted appropriately. And if there's anyone who gets through that process who is not appropriate to sit on the council assessment panel, then that is an issue in itself. So I trust in that process and think that it's best that we support this motion.
Any other discussion? Councillor Koch, are you happy for me to put that motion? I'm going to put the motion, which is up on the board. All those in favour, please raise your hands. All those against, it is carried. Thank you. Right, so that was 10.9. Now we go to 10.10. And this is a fairly straightforward motion that Councillor Lorna be appointed to the Corporate and Community Services Committee for a period expiring 28th November. You happy to move, Jim? Thank you, Councillor Vallelonga. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Davies. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Carried unanimously. Thank you. We 10.11. Fairly straightforward motion. Are you happy to move that way, Councillor Hughes? Do you wish to speak at all? And seconded by Councillor Vallelonga.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, no, as the Mayor said, this is just a fairly straightforward motion authorising these appointments, and yeah, happy to move.
Thank you. And seconded by Councillor Vallelonga. Do you wish to speak at all? Thank you. If there's no further discussion, I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Carried unanimously. Thank you. Now we have a grants update. I'm just trying to find my spot. There we are. I'm on page 63 of the agenda, and that we have so what we have now is information reports. I'm happy to do them one at a time, but we can do them en bloc if there's a desire to. We can do them all together. How do you wish to proceed, council? You happy to move them on block? Moved by councillor Valalonga. Do I have a seconder for that, councillor Davies? So we have a mover and we have a seconder. Now, if you have any question about any of those items, now's the time to speak on any of those items or raise a question. I see your hand up, Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, sorry, I've got a note here that I'm just trying to figure out what it means. But it's about the car club grant. There was something that's mentioned throughout the report. I'd love to be able to give you the page number, but I'm hoping, yeah, David's nodding. You'd be able to give us a little bit of an update or what's available and everything like that. I picked it up and I do apologise. I picked it up probably at 11:45 last night. So I should have wrote the page number. Or I should have wrote a bit longer hand.
If you can provide some clarification, Mr. Barrett, thank you.
So through the chair, it's on page 72 of the agenda, local car club grants. It's a program that is coming from the Office for Recreation, Sport and Racing. They've put $2 million budget across the next 4 years to support local car clubs in that space. Unfortunately, we have no information from the government what it's about or what we can do with it or who's eligible and applications. We're waiting.
So that will come?
It will come. Yes, it's in the budget. So we're just waiting for ORSA to provide the information.
Okay, thank you very much for that clarification. Any other discussion? Oh, I might go to councillor Samble and then back to you, Deputy Mayor.
Thanks, Mayor Karen. The item 3 was unsuccessful. Are we still going to go ahead with that? That's number 1. Number 2, the Australia Day Council, we were unsuccessful in that particular one. Does that mean that council is still going to pay the $9,750 for the Australia Day celebrations?
So on point 3, that was a grant application and no, we won't be spending $232,712 because that was part of an application. So that's probably an item for another opportunity for a future grant application. The Red Room project, I was talking to Lauren Leverington, who's the superintendent of the Barossa LSA, and she was saying that they're getting really good outcomes from the Red Room project. She's exceptionally pleased with how the community is working together on that particular project, and very excited to actually focus on other issues of importance that is relevant to all service and emergency services in the region. So I think that's a really good outcome for the Red Room project. With point 5, David, we will still be paying the $9,750 because we're going back to Apex Park. Is that correct? So the Australia Day breakfast will be back in Apex Park in January. Okay, so I think that addresses your question, Councillor Samble. Thank you, Councillor Samble. And now, Deputy Mayor, did you have your hand up again?
This one's about 11.3. Firstly, thank you for the separate report. I think these are going to be good moving forward to pull that business hub out of the civic centre, and hence why I moved that way back December last year. So there you go. The question I have, and I know it's going to be a little bit difficult, but I think to do this credit in gathering the data and everything, we need to be able to split out the overheads, the power, the water and everything like that that is associated with the hub, in my opinion, to be able to not isolate it, but be able to communicate what it is and what it's doing. I do like the fact that you've highlighted the seats and we're able to look at the businesses in there. This is great data to have. I do note that, you know, it'd be great to see a few more startups or innovative businesses and stuff like that. You know, we have some financial planners in there. I think we've got 2. And then there's also the sentiment coming through this report that, yeah, look, we want to move out, but this is way too cheap and way too good here. Why would we? You know, so there's, you know, that's a problem with what we've set up the model and what we're preaching. I don't want to kick anyone out, but we need to figure out how we're going to facilitate the moving on. And yeah, some of that thought process needs to be already happening. I know that we've talked, oh, well, maybe we'll talk to some real estate agents and see where the choke points are and see what's available and whatever else. That needs to be happening yesterday to figure out how we're going to facilitate that moving on, because that's what we've been preaching. And now we owe it to the community to start practicing that. So once again, these reports are very valuable, and you know, every quarter we'll be able to have these conversations and feed this feedback back. But we're delving into that private industry again, and we're getting those private industry questions. We need those answers. So I know this is the first one, and I, again, thank you for it. And it is good, useful data, but we need to start figuring out how we're going to deliver on what we said we would.
Thank you. You had your hand up, Councillor Kosh.
Yeah, so I just want to comment also about the Business Innovation Hub. I am concerned when I read this that a number of, well, I think majority of businesses aren't necessarily planning to move out. I think something has to happen, because we need, the whole idea is we need to allow businesses to get established, get on their feet, and then move on. So we allow the next business to come in and get on the feet and move on. That's the whole idea. It's not actually there for people to just camp there essentially forever. When that's what, I mean, I read that and it doesn't seem to be any movement at all about moving on. I don't think we should be subsidising businesses. There's some business there that it looks like they're probably doing quite well. So I'm just concerned that somehow, you know, I mean, they're just still there. How do we move them on? We were told that yes, there's going to be some pressure applied or something to help them move on. But it looks like we've looked around, we can't find anything, so we're staying. Basically, that's it. So I'd be very interested to know what strategies we can do, because we really do need that space available for new innovating business, because that's what it's there for.
Yeah,
The public funds aren't there to support someone's business.
I agree, and
Yeah.
I think that we've got some great businesses in the Innovation Hub, and they're doing, some of them are doing well and some of them are still developing, but I think there needs to be a pathway out into the commercial world, and I think I'm hearing that there's a bit of a consensus around the table for that. So, Councillor Davies.
Yeah, well, firstly, just agreeing with what everyone said around the Business Innovation Hub. My comments are around 11.2, the Civic Centre update. I think we've had some good events and stuff happening in our Civic Centre, the library and the Cultural Heritage Centre. And I think that's something that, as we consider what to do with our cafe space, I think we should keep in mind events like this, a central seating area with a coffee machine and all that is ours and not the businesses that we still have, even as the cafe moves out, is something that's potentially beneficial for all of this stuff that's happening in the Civic Centre. It is still a useful area, so just something to think about in that respect. Yeah, the youth programs doing well as always. I participated in one of these, the Learn to Podcast. It came along and helped some young people with their podcasting, and that went really well. And a lot of them are naturals at it once you get you help them with the basics. They've got a clear understanding of. I find that, you know, older generations watch TV, whereas a lot of these people have been watching streamers and podcasters and all this kind of thing, and excited to be able to do it themselves. So yeah, just some great stuff happening at our Civic Centre, the Gawler Youth Band. I've been around to a couple of their events now. They're getting gigs, which is very exciting. So, yeah, that's my thoughts.
Thank you. Any other discussion on this matter? Have we got a seconder? We did have a seconder. Who was the seconder? You were the seconder, councillor Davies. Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Chris. You can add councillor Davies as a seconder. Thank you. If there's no further discussion, councillor Vallelonga, are you happy for me to put the motion? Thank you. I'll put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Carried unanimously. Thank you. Now. We're up to just keep going. I'm on page 104 of 108. I'm on item 12, recommendations from committees. We've got two recommendations from the Chief Executive Officer Performance Management Panel. We have an update and then we have an annual report, and I'll do that in one at a time. So firstly, 9.1, I'm looking for a mover. Thank you, councillor Hughes, seconded by councillor Vallelonga. Any discussion on this matter? If not, I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Carried unanimously. Then we're moving to the annual report. Do you wish to move that as the previous chair, councillor Hughes? Do you wish to speak at all or not? Thank you. And seconded by councillor Vallelonga. There's no further discussion. I'll put that motion on. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Carried unanimously. Now moving over the page, we have no external bodies reports. We have a question on notice from councillor Lorna, and there is a response. We'll hand that response out. Now the response to the question on notice will go in the minutes. You will get a copy right now. I've got one. That's all right. That deals with the. I've got two here. Is all right? I'll give you time to read that. I might move on to questions without notice. Are there any questions without notice? Councillor Davies.
Just in regards to recommendations from committees,
Yes.
I think if I'm getting the timing right, we had an audit committee meeting right before the end of the last council that I don't think has come up in the last two council meetings for approval.
Ms. Perkins, audit committee recommendations.
Through you, Chair, I can't recall whether it was actually at the November 29th meeting. I'll have to follow that up.
We'll check on that and get back to all elected members with an answer on that question. Thank you for that question. Any other questions if there be none, we will move. There are no motions on notice now. Councillor Solomon, I think you had a motion without notice that was, I can't recall what it
Thank you,
was,
Mayor.
but
Have
have you got, is it up?
I've got the motion. It was, I believe it
Have you
was
got it,
circulated.
Chris? Have you got it, Chris? No.
I believe it was circulated to all elected members last Tuesday
Yes.
on the 6th of December. And I apologise for that. It was,
If you can just read it
yeah,
out, it
yeah.
just make it easier for the
No
minute
worries.
taker, councillor Solomon.
thank you, I will, yep. So the motion is that council asks the mayor to contact the Electoral Commission of South Australia. One, clearly expressing council's interest in providing well-informed and constructive feedback on the election process. Two.
If I can, sorry to interrupt,
Yes.
can you send that to Chris
Yep.
Haynes? Have you got, are you linked into the internet? If you can, she will be able to put it up very quickly.
Yep.
And why don't we do that? And then you can talk to the motion without reading it out. That might be a better way, if that's okay.
That was Chris Haynes.
Chris Haynes.
Hay-
Chris.Haynes@Gawler. Might be just as easy. Because it is, as I recall, there was a few points in the motion.
Yes,
Yes.
yeah, there was a couple of points.
Let's see if Chris, she's got it and she'll be able to cut and paste, Isaac. So I will just give her a few minutes to do that and it'll put it up on the board and then you can talk to your motion. There it is. So it's up. Oh, I'll let you put that in the minutes. Sorry, Chris. So we have it up on the board if people can, Isaac, if you want
Yes,
to
yeah.
speak to your motion, you have the
Thank
floor.
Yes, so thank you, Mayor. So I apologise that this wasn't didn't make it into the agenda. There was an issue with the interpretation, my interpretation of the 7 days, which has now
That's
been
perfectly
clarified.
right.
So
You don't need
thank
to apologise.
No worries. All right. Thank you, Mayor. So I put the following motion because previous meetings we identified the need to give some constructive and well-informed feedback to the Electoral Commission, and that would be a process taking place early next year to provide feedback. I put the following motion just because I think it's really important that we make clear our intention to the Electoral Commission to provide quality feedback, which is careful and considered. But equally, there were some questions that were raised at previous council meetings, which we haven't necessarily had answers to yet. I think that answering those questions, which are listed in part 2, will help to provide some clarity to council members and to the community so that we're able to provide appropriate feedback. Failing to get those answers might mean that the feedback that we provide is inaccurate or doesn't speak to the issues that they need to speak to. Thank you.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor, Deputy Mayor Shanks has seconded. Do you wish to speak at all?
Yeah, look, I think this is a really good motion. It's informative. It's trying to point out, we want to give the best feedback, but we have some questions. And to provide that feedback, we need to ask these questions and receive the answers to be able to provide an educated feedback back. So I filled out the survey that Access sent out about the election process. To me, you know, I feel like it was a bit of a going through the motions sort of survey, which was a little bit disappointing. They weren't even really asking loaded questions. It was just Did you like the process? Yes or no? Next question. Like, yeah, it was lacking a little bit. So when we're providing our feedback next year, this is all just a part of that, because we need the process to be better than it was, and there is room for improvement 100%. So I'm in full support of this, and yeah, thank Councillor Solomon for putting it up.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Councillor Koch?
Look, I'm a bit confused about this because some of these are really specific questions. Could I just, maybe someone could just walk me through exactly what you're asking? The
Well,
first one, what is
A?
what is it? What's a complex count? What are you
Well,
actually
they
talking about?
classed Gawler as a complex count.
Originally?
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
So there was a local count. So you're saying why did we continue a local count when it was a complex count? But don't you have a local count anyway? Why would you have what? So you're saying we didn't want a local count? Is that what you're saying? I don't understand it. You're saying you don't?
So you wish to seek leave to speak
yeah.
again? Can if elected members could show me whether they're allowing the leave to be sought? Yes, you've got leave. Thank you.
Thank you. And to answer the question, Councillor Koch, that's obviously the complex count was something which was identified by the Electoral Commission as being necessary for some councils and not others. Gawler was identified as a complex count due to the nature of the voting and how the count would take place. That didn't occur across all councils. And there have been questions raised by members of the community on why there is a need to have two counts, one which is a local count with an inconclusive answer as to who was elected, and secondly, a complex count which is done after that. Obviously, there's also been questions raised about the cost of that, and I think that it's important that we clarify exactly why both counts have to take place, so that we can give appropriate feedback on that. Because if we're giving feedback which is based on comments from community members saying we don't need both of them, but there is actually an important reason to have both of them, I think it's important that we understand that.
I'm just asking questions about it. Someone can answer it. But a local count is just the first preference, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
So
Yeah.
why would you say you didn't want a first preference count? That's what it says to me.
What they did,
why are you saying you don't want a first
if we can
preference
be
count?
clear, what they did the mayoral count first,
Yeah.
and they got an outcome from
Yeah.
the mayoral count.
But-
And then they went to elected members and they did first preference
right.
only.
That's
And
right.
then they took it to the city to do the rest of the count and get outcomes on that.
That's right.
What they consider a
But it's
complex
nothing-
count.
But of course you'd want a first preference vote. Why are you saying you don't want a first preference vote? That's the first one. You're almost saying you don't want a first preference count. You just want to go straight to a complex count.
Well, I think that what this letter would be asking is getting clarifications around the desire, because I think you want to know who your mayor is. I think that's really
Yeah,
important.
the mayor's because the mayor is not a complex count, okay?
No,
But the councillors is going to be, so why would we be asking, why would we say we don't want a first preference count in Gawler? Because that's what it's saying to me. It's just saying, well, we'll have one or the other. Obviously, we're going to have a complex count because you've got the distribution of preferences.
I'll put it to you, councillor
Yeah, that's
Solomon.
the,
I know that
doesn't seem the rationale to me.
there's been conjecture around, and maybe it's that some people don't understand how the count is done. But I think that the rationale behind continuing to conduct local counts in areas where the need for a complex count to occur had already been identified. I think that we need to be careful what we're asking for, because if we word it incorrectly, we could be making it sound like we don't want to know the outcome locally. and that it goes to the city and, we have to wait,
Yeah,
2
what
weeks to get an
That's
answer.
what I'm saying.
Now, some people will be elected on first count,
Yeah.
first preference only, and a few people around the table that in fact did occur.
Mm.
So I think that, it really depends on the number of candidates. It depends on the broad range of preferences that people put in their voting papers, etc. So it is quite complex at times. Yeah, I think we can. I think this is a valid motion, and I think that we can work with this motion. Yeah, I think that we can make it so that we're not putting ourselves in a corner.
Oh,
if you
yeah,
like.
that's
Yeah.
On the next one, I
Certainly.
just want to clarify, were council staff and members not identified?
Were not notified
Were
of
were
the
they
new
notified
date
or not? So nobody was notified at all. I was,
of the second count.
I was,
I wasn't.
I was.
So,
Well,
so
no, I mean,
think- I
yeah,
think-
yeah, I was
I-
told that that's going to be what's happened.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
I,
fine.
I think that this is a valid motion. I'll go back to the point
Okay,
that this
yeah,
is a
yeah.
valid motion. And we can make it work so it's fairly clear that we're not putting ourselves into a corner, but we're asking reasonable questions to get reasonable answers. I think that's
Yeah,
where
yeah,
you're
yeah,
coming from,
yeah.
councillor Solomon.
And
I'll just go, I might just go back to councillor Solomon.
Yes,
yeah.
thank you, but yes, it is. And I mean, certainly I want to make clear that this is asking questions, and certainly if there's a better way of wording it, which is preferable to the mayor, I'm open to hearing that, because I may be amenable to a change in there. Though I think it is important because these are areas of concern, and I think it's really important for the integrity to ensure the integrity of the election, that we are giving appropriate feedback, because we don't want to. Councillor, I note
might-
that Councillor Koch may have some.
It might be worth putting in, I'm just looking at part B, councillor Solomon, why council staff and some members of the public. I'm hearing from one member of the community that seemed to think that they were notified, so that might be something to consider.
Yeah, I take note of some wording there that Councillor Koch obviously took objection to. I want to make sure that there is no room for people to question the integrity of the election, is what I was saying. So I appreciate if the council, let me speak. Anyway, if there's any further questions, I'm happy to answer those, and I'm amenable to any changes to that. Though I think it's important because there was a change of 100 votes in there, and it's important that we know why that happened there, and that we are giving a feedback which is well informed and constructive and based on the facts provided by the Electoral Commission.
So we've got a few hands up, so I might go to councillor Hennessy and then councillor Davies.
I'm in support of it. I just think it needs a little bit of twitching. I am very much aware that the way that the communication occurred was very different for each one of us. I fall into the pile of people who weren't kept informed. So it was, and it seemed to be mixed messages coming from staff and EXA. And anyway, I think the crux of the matter is that people don't understand the preferential voting system. And if we'd had some more, perhaps that's something EXA has to look at. I would just change in D, the difference between the local count and the count that occurred at Hindmarsh, because it's a complex vote, I think the word complex is the one that's probably throwing it.
Why the discrepancy in the number of informal votes between the local count and complex count?
No, I
occurred?
just take the word complex out altogether, the count that occurred at Hindmarsh.
It occurred at Hindmarsh. Okay, I think that might make it a bit better, councillor Solomon. Count that occurred at EXA headquarters would be better. Probably the Electoral Commission of South Australia, we might put the actual words in rather than EXA. Sorry, Chris. Of SA, yes, headquarters. That would be better than at Hindmarsh. Yeah. So then you know that there were two separate counts and where they occurred. Yeah. It's up to you, councillor Solomon.
Clarify that the complex count is the terminology which is used in all of the communications and on the exit website in providing that information. But it in practice means the same thing. So if other members are more comfortable with saying at the Electoral Commission headquarters, I'm amenable to that.
Okay, thank you. And I'll go to councillor Davies. He's been very patient. Thank you.
Yeah, look, I think this is, you know, it's not a motion arguing anything. It's just saying for us to give feedback, here's some questions that people have had that we would like to have an official answer to. In regards to the being informed of the complex count, just to, I guess, clarify that situation a bit more. I think what happened was that we were originally scheduled on for a previous day. The count did not finish by the time they needed to send that off. And so the candidates were asking, so when's the new time? When's it going to be counted now? Is it going to be pushed back to, you know, the end of the week? Is it going to be tomorrow? And staff got a response saying, we don't know, it might be, at some point we might have your vote done. And then councillor White got a direct email response saying, oh, it's happening now. And so that was something that, you know, we continued to have staff, I know, were very frustrated with the process of poor communication there, and candidates were frustrated, especially if they, you know, wanted to potentially send a scrutineer out to the complex count. They had no way of doing so if they couldn't find out definitively whether it was happening or not. And so that seemed to be a breakdown of communication. And that's part of the probable feedback that I think we would be sending to them. But if we can get them to, you know, to give their version of events there, I think that would help us in providing our feedback, which I think is why it's in there. So yeah, happy to support this motion.
Yeah, I think there is merit in having local counts. I think that there's actually advantages for transparency, particularly for scrutineers being able to observe those counts. And I think that's actually quite important. So we will make sure that we're not saying that we don't want a local count, and you've certainly put the rationale behind that. But I think we need to not be pushed into a corner so that they make an assumption that we're assuming that we don't want a local count. And I don't think that's what you're meaning. So I think that's okay. So you wish to speak again? Okay.
I'm very concerned now. I've heard here tonight that somebody's questioning the integrity of this election. That's what's, it sounded like to me that the motivation behind this was people were questioning the integrity of the election.
That's not what I heard. I know that the word integrity was used, and we need to be very careful, when we make public comments. That's certainly, I'm sure that's not what the intention was. We're certainly asking questions, which is our right to provide some clarification and feedback. But certainly I don't believe that there is any suggestion that there was anything untoward in this particular election. That is not my understanding of what was said. And I think we certainly need to choose our words very carefully. And certainly on behalf of the council, I don't believe that there was anything untoward. The exit staff did the best that they could, and there was an outcome. And I think that yeah, we need to understand that. Yeah.
Just on that, there have been community comments about the integrity of this election.
Well,
and I'm just concerned that
I'm going to stop any further comments using that particular word. I think it's inappropriate. I think that we shouldn't be going down that road.
Exactly right.
And I think that anyone who wants to make those comments, I will stop them because I don't think it's appropriate in this public forum. So I'll leave it there and I'll go to councillor Samble.
Thank you, Mayor Karen. I'll support this all the way, and I don't know what councillor Cosh is going on about because I've not heard anything. But as councillor Davies said, my family and other people were saying, you know, how'd you go, Sambo, in the election? And councillor White rang me and gave me all the information. And, you know, like the way that was handled was just pathetic. And then we got a
No.
great.
Please stop.
Oh,
No,
that's
no, I'm not going to allow derogatory
and then
comments.
we had a
Councillor
good-
Samble, please. I
I'm
will
won't
not
say that
allow,
anymore.
I will not allow derogatory comments against a reputable organisation. Now, we're asking questions, which is right and proper, but please be mindful what you say.
Right, but then on Friday's Advertiser, 4-page spread about all the elections. And it certainly wasn't very mature the way it was done, but it was a 4-page spread and it told us all about every council in the area. I'm not sure whether anybody else got it, but it was, I've certainly got a copy of it and it was in the Advertiser. So I support this motion and that there has to be some changes, I believe.
Thank you. Councillor Vallelonga.
Yeah, I support it too. Isaac's motion. I think it's a very good question. I just want to add a couple little pointers on the election. A rental, people who rent homes, are they allowed to vote?
Yes,
And what about the person who owns the home?
yes.
What about businesses?
If they own a business in Gawler and they register before the cut-off date.
Yeah, I'd like to have a discussion on that because I found a lot of those people didn't vote because it was too hard. I think we have to have a discussion on that, and I don't want to bring up a motion now, but I think we should have a discussion on that because a lot of people out there did not vote because it was too hard.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, councillor Vallelonga. Any other discussion? If there's no further discussion, councillor Solomon, if you can wrap it up, thank you.
Thank you. I'll conclude and I'll avoid using any terminology would be disallowed by the chair, but I'd like to point to point 1 in there, which I think is what I was really wanting to speak to in this motion, is that we clearly express our intention here, and our intention alone is to provide well-informed and constructive feedback on the election process. And there should be no room for any other intention to be perceived by EXA in the letter that we're drafting. I think that's the important part. And I think that's the part that I really want to communicate to the other elected members here that we are doing as part of this. There are questions that need to be answered. It's important that we ask them so we can provide appropriate feedback, which is not misled by misinformation. And I think there is a lot of misinformation which exists, and the way that we counter that is by asking the mayor to contact the Electoral Commission and seek clarification on these points so that the feedback that we provide is based on accurate information.
The debate is closed. I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. All those against, it is carried. Thank you. Okay, so that concludes motions without notice. Council member attendance and activities. I went to the gymnastics breakup on Friday night. They've been running a continuous gymnastics club since 1946. They are a long-term community group in Gawler and they do an outstanding job and they're growing exponentially and they're really doing exceptionally well. And there are a number of gymnasts going overseas to Amsterdam, which they're very excited about. I was a speaker at the 16 Days of Activism in Gumtree Plaza on Saturday morning, and it was attended by about 20 or 30 people. It was a fabulous event put on by both Zonta Club of Gawler and also the Domestic Violence Network. It was exceptional event, and it was the final event in the 16 days of activism, which is reducing violence against women in this area. Freedom of Entry, a number of us went along to the Freedom of Entry event for the 608 Squadron, Town of Gawler, Air Cadets through Murray Street at 9 o'clock on Sunday morning. And we were also invited to the Australian Air Force barracks on Gawler River Road. And then I went to a carol service at Anglican Church at 7 p.m. Last night, and yesterday evening there was a number of women got together celebrating the election of Councillor Hennessy, and it was a fabulous event by many diverse group of women across Gawler and surrounds, and it was really exciting. Also spoke at the Roland Flat Agricultural Bureau last week, and they're a long-term agricultural bureau in the Barossa Valley, and they were very keen to welcome me as Mayor of Gawler, and it's another opportunity to network across the region with growers and agricultural and farmers and their families, and it was a really enjoyable event. So anybody else has Councillor Davies, would you like to tell us where you've been?
So yeah, just a special mention to the volunteer Christmas function.
Yes.
Which I saw a few other councillors at. I believe Councillor Hennessy, the Mayor, Councillor Samble, Councillor White. Are you there? Yeah. And it's always a great time. We have a wide range of volunteers at the town of Gawler, and the one that people are always the most surprised by when I mention it is the clock tower. Because I think, people like our clock tower, but they don't realize there's people who volunteer to go in there and climb up the ladder and do that, do that important work, keeping it running. So yeah, that was a good event.
Thank you. Councillor Hennessy and Councillor Hughes.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I attended the community garden AGM on Saturday. 22 enthusiastic people all ready now to start. Now they have the lease signed and they will have their first workshop this coming weekend. I think in terms of a social group, it's going to be a very constructive organisation. I met 3 or 4 recent retirees, 2 of whom had just come to the town, and we're using this as a way of getting to know the community and finding their own type of tribe. So I think that's quite exciting. I congratulate the organisers of the Makers, the 3rd Makers Market. That was terrific again, and yet again activated this building. Lots of people coming in, some of whom still had never been inside, so that was great. And I'm sure somebody's overlooked it, but we had the 60th celebrations of the pool, I think, since we last met, and that was fabulous, particularly because we saw a couple of the original members, some of them in their 90s who were there and very enthusiastic in their memories of that particular community facility. Thank you.
Councillor Hughes.
Yes, since the last meeting, we've had the AGM of the Gawler Area Health Advisory Council, which the Mayor came along to, which was great. We still have a vacancy for a community member, so that can apply to anyone that goes in the area. They normally meet on Thursdays once a month, but yeah, as I said, at the moment, for the next 6 months, we've actually got quite a lot of meetings and work on. So yeah, we are trying to divide those tasks up amongst us, but yeah. There's about 8 or 9 people on the committee, but it's always handy to have extra people from the committee, from the community, put their hand up as well. So thanks.
Thank you. If there's no further discussion, I'll ask somebody to move that we note the council member attendances and activity. Thank you, councillor Vallelonga, moved and seconded by councillor Hughes, that we note the attendances by elected members to community events. And the mayor. Sorry. Thank you. At community events. So we've moved by councillor Vallelonga, seconded by councillor Hughes. I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Thank you. We're carried unanimously. We might have a 10-minute break and come back at 9:30 just to give our legs a stretch and go to the bathroom if we need to. Thank you, everyone. we might get cracking. Thanks, everyone. So. We are now moving into the confidential reports, item 19. We have 2 items that we need to address. We have a procurement matter and we have the